Here we go again, guys. Welcome to the Line Golf Academy. So I just decided to try and start a video today about Tony Finau because I was having a conversation with somebody. I said, you know what, I've never done a video on Tony Finau and specifically how he hits the ball so far with such a simple looking swing. So I went on YouTube, I typed in Tony Finau golf swing so I can find a video to analyze, and this thing popped up from Performance Golf talking about Jon Rahm slow motion swing analysis. So I got a little curious and I clicked on it, and after watching this, I was like, oh my god, here we go again. So we're going to watch this video and then talk about Tony Finau and Jon Rahm and compare them and see how they hit the ball so incredibly far with such a small swing, and talk about the reasons behind it, because there's no education out there. There's just these empty promises, and you'll see what I mean by this video, because by the time you finished, you think you're going to hit it like Jon Rahm with doing these 2 or 3 simple things. We're going to take a look at the guy demonstrating it to put him next to Jon Rahm, just to show you how he doesn't even get to do what he's saying you should do to look like Jon Rahm. It just makes a whole bunch of nonsense. So if you do like this, hit that like, share, subscribe. But other than that, let's get going. Okay, so here is the video we're talking about, and when you hear swing analysis, I would expect there to be some explanation of what's going on in terms of the setup, in terms of ball placement, in terms of how this works, and why most of us probably shouldn't even try this. But just watch this and we'll see what this is about.
What's up, guys? JT Thomas with Performance Golf. We're back with the how-to series, how to swing like your favorite golfer. This week we are doing Jon Rahm. We're going to walk you through a little bit of his trigger, his takeaway. We're going to go to the top of the backswing, and then we're also going to get you down into impact. First thing we're going to talk about with Jon Rahm is his trigger and his takeaway. A big thing that Jon Rahm does as he takes the club back, if you notice, is he'll get a little foot tap on this lead foot. Now, the whole point of that is to make sure that he doesn't get loaded too quickly on his left side too fast. So if we take a backswing and we start to tap that lead foot as we go back, it makes sure our weight shifts to our trail side early in the backswing and really allows us to shift it back on top of the ball in the downswing. We're going to take it back here, feel a little foot tap a couple times, tap this foot to start, and then hit one. Wow, I might start doing that in my swing. That was pure. So I'll hit one more, guys, just to give you that feel. Give it a quick little tap with the lead foot, making sure my weight's getting on my trail side. Go ahead and do this again. Left foot tap. Hit it. Wow, I hit that really good. No wonder Jon Rahm is so good, guys. So that's the first part of the takeaway and the trigger of Jon Rahm, is just to feel a little left foot tap to start the backswing. Make sure you get the weight on that back foot so you can shift it back onto the lead foot in the downswing.
All right, so you hear that right at the very end. He explains that the super secret thing that Jon Rahm does, that's probably why he's so good. And he said, man, I did it like that and I hit that ball perfectly. And at the very end, he said, this is why you need to do this so you can prepare yourself for the next move. So he's trying to put this back on you and saying, hey, just move your foot like Michael Jackson, and all of a sudden things will start to open up just like it did for Jon Rahm. It must be so easy. Let's see what he talks about next.
All right, guys, a little prerequisite here before we get to the top of the backswing. Jon Rahm has a pretty weak left hand. And to do these movements at the top of the backswing, it's important that your lead hand grip is pretty weak as well. So what I mean by that is that you will not see much of the logo when you look down on the grip. You're going to twist the grip much more on the lead side to where that logo is on the side of the shaft. Again, that allows us to do the backswing pieces that we need, or top of the backswing pieces, to match Jon Rahm. So really important, if you're going to try and swing like Jon Rahm, you need to make sure the lead hand grip is much more on the weaker side than the stronger side. All right, guys, so now that we have the prerequisite of the weak grip, we're going to get into the backswing, or top of the backswing, where Jon Rahm's club is laid off at the top. The way that he does that is his lead shoulder is more internally rotated, or elbow pointed more away from his body rather than towards the body. So the way that you can feel this is just grab the club with that lead hand, really feel that lead arm roll, elbow point away from you. You'll notice the club is parallel with the ground, much more than steep. And that's what we're looking to feel to look like Jon Rahm. So we can do a little practice swing here, feeling that same motion, feeling the club super laid off, elbow pointed very much so away from us. And then we can just do some slow ones here just to really get this feeling. Again, it may feel awkward for you, so I'm just going to bump one down the fairway first here, trying to really get that club more laid off. Again, nice little bullet cut down the fairway there. All right, guys.
That looked like a little draw, but either way, so you see how he's trying to tell you all of a sudden you've got to weaken your grip and you've got to I don't even know the verbiage he used. Basically, lift the club up and lay off. That's basically what I understood from that. But it's simple. So once you get the left toe tap, you lift your hands up, you lay it off, and now, man, you should be really killing it, just like he is doing. Is that correct? Well, we're going to take a look at this man's swing and compare it to Jon Rahm. But we'll save that to the very end because we want to see his final attempt and really see, does he swing like Jon Rahm, and does he swing like he's telling you to? We don't know.
I was going to give this another rip here. Really trying to feel this thing as laid off as we can here in the backswing. Internally rotated lead shoulder. Here we go. Nice little bullet baby cut down the fairway. Again, those are the feels that Jon Rahm has. He hits bullet cuts all the time. Top of the backswing keys, just making sure we get this.
So how does he know what feels Jon Rahm has? Feel isn't real. He could be thinking about something completely different. So this is lost in translation. We have somebody telling you to follow these three basic steps: toe tap, get your arms to lift up and lay off, and then drive down.
Lead shoulder more internally rotated, get this club head more laid off at the top, lead wrist more flexed, trail wrist bent back. The third step here to mimic Jon Rahm's swing is his impact. And what that looks like for Jon Rahm, especially because he has this weak grip, is what we see as the emblem of the glove pointed towards the target. So we're not going to see any of that emblem as we swing down. You notice if I do that, see how open that club face is, versus if I twist that emblem down, you'll see how much more square that club face is. And that's how I want to hit the ball, especially if I'm trying to hit these low compressed cuts like Jon Rahm. So the feel that you want to have to mimic this is, again, grab the club with that weaker grip, take a very small backswing, and then what you're going to do is feel like you're turning that emblem down as you hit that golf ball. So twisting the grip down, turning that emblem down as you hit the golf ball, especially, again, with that weak grip. Otherwise, if you're doing this and you start to hit some balls to the right, you can assume you're probably not twisting that emblem down enough. So just some small swings here. Again, Jon Rahm swings pretty short anyway, but just trying to mimic these feels. We're just trying to bump the ball out there, really trying to feel that logo on that glove turn down. So here we go, just a really small one out there, trying to feel these motions, just bunting it out. Again, super nice, low compressed shot, just a little baby cut with that emblem turning down. I'm gonna give it one more rip here. Trying to feel this same thing, add a little bit more speed to the system. Same exact feels here. Really trying to feel this club laid off, internally rotated lead shoulder, turn that emblem down. So again, super nice shot there, really low compressed ball flight, a lot like how Jon Rahm hits them.
I'm going to put my head right there. Let me just speak for him now. Look at that, perfect. Yeah, what I meant to, let me put my head like this. There. What I meant to say is, oh, I can't move my hands. What I meant to say is, don't really follow this because I'm just here to get some clicks and some ad revenue. All I want to do is give you some empty promises, tell you to do 3 things, and you'll hit it just like Jon Rahm. If you follow these 3 things, and don't forget that toe tap, you need that toe tap to get 400 more yards out of your measly 150 that you generate right now. This drives me nuts, and this is one of the reasons why I opened this channel, to help educate you to stay away from this, because granted, it's fun to watch, but don't bother trying any of this stuff. Let's just take a look at this man trying to hit a golf ball, how he says you should, and compare it to Jon Rahm, and then we're going to go straight into the true analysis of why Jon Rahm and Tony Finau bomb the golf ball. It's all about de-lofting the club face and swinging up, and that comes from your setup and your overall body mechanics. So let's get going. So we have the man of the hour on the left side of both of these clips and Jon Rahm on the right side. Now, the thing I want you to remember is, if I was doing that video that he did to you, I would first of all tell you, don't bother swinging like Jon Rahm because you're not capable of it, or else you'd be on TV and we'd be watching you. But to understand how Jon Rahm's swing works, it is heavily involved in the setup. So if you take a look at the setup on the right side and the left side, right side we're going to look at first is look at the spine tilt that Jon Rahm is established. And this is a big thing, because what is this doing is it's prematurely setting his hands to be able to swing up more. But in order to do that, that, you had to have a body manipulation to get this accomplished. So to help explain this, let's draw a circle from the belt buckle around, and the same thing with the man of the hour around. And what we're going to do is draw where the center of that circle is based on the spine angle, because that changes everything. So if we draw the line on the man of the hour and then Jon Rahm, we can see that which one is tilted more up past impact. That's Jon Rahm. So we see those hands will want to escape higher, and that's key. Now the higher you can get your hands to escape, that means you're tilting more at impact. The more that golf ball needs to be pressed towards your left side. Now Jon Rahm doesn't necessarily press it as much as Tony Finau, and we'll see why Tony Finau has to swing further up, and he does a really good job of swinging up high. But this is one reason why Jon Rahm bows his wrist, because remember, bowing your wrist does not open or close the club face. It de-lofts the club face. So the more you're able to tilt back, the more you actually need to de-loft your club face to accommodate that tilt, to keep your club face angle related to your tilt the same. So think about it this way. If your golf ball was on the right side of your foot and you try to swing it, you'd probably develop a cupping action to add loft, because you need to add loft sooner because that ball placement is too far in the back. So that is the contrary motion. So we're going to keep those circles up there to see how their escape pattern works. On the left side of the screen, yeah, they look similar, but we see that Jon Rahm is a little bit more heel based, because if we draw a line straight up to the sky, and we're going to draw a line in our favorite Barney purple, and we choose basically the center of the feet up in the sky, center of the feet up in the sky, we can see that Jon Rahm's center of his lower plane line and spine angle line are sitting more behind him. So that does change slightly, but we take a look at this first motion on the way back, that we can clearly see at the top of the swing on both of these. Now remember what that gentleman said, that he needs to get your hands to go out and away and feel laid off. So do you think that he's doing this in the top position on the left side of the screen? First of all, he said he's trying to get his wrist to bow, right? He's getting that real bowy feeling where the hands are out in front. I don't see any bow on that left side of the screen as opposed to Jon Rahm. We can definitely see a bow, but remember, he's bowing it to de-loft the club because he's going to fall back and swing even further up. Now, in terms of the weight distribution, because you have more tilt on the right side of the screen, all you need to do is turn around your hip joints and your spine angle will change accordingly. So we see that yellow line still matches both of our players' spine angle. So the gentleman has a really good swing, but it's nowhere near to what Jon Rahm is trying to do. The hand position, Jon Rahm is more out in front. If we can see that, we get the same Barney purple on the right side of the screen. The hands are more out in front, where the one on the left side has started to pull back. So his arm travel is a little bit further, which complicates things if you're trying to swing like Jon Rahm, which I don't recommend you do. As we come on down into impact, if we do the triangle check on both these players, we're going to go from the butt of the club where the triangle is connected with the elbows. We can see they're both pointing completely different. So then again, that just shows you that Jon Rahm does have his hands much higher than our guy on the left side. But we can see that both of them pull their hands down initially. That first couple of moves down, by the time you get to that green line, your hands should be on that line. So they both do a good job. They both drop it down to the lower plane line effectively, and as we strike that golf ball, we can see at impact, the one on the right side, we have a lot more clearance room for the hands and arms to tilt and turn. The one on the left side over here, you can see that is jamming on his right side. So it's not as effective. He doesn't get that weight to the back left heel as good as Jon Rahm. If we take a look at the right side of the screen, as we strike that golf ball, we can see an increase of tilt for both of them. But let's look at Jon Rahm's first and our favorite Barney Purple. We see that he has increased his tilt even more. And our gentleman on the left side, he has actually moved his center of his chest further left, which is not good, where Jon Rahm has moved his chest further right. And by doing this, we see that center point on the one on the left side here, his center point's moving close to the target. The one on the right side, his center point's moving away from the target, which is also very key because that now changes your ball position even further. So if we draw from the center of that chest point to the down to the golf ball, we can see that this one is ahead of the golf ball, where this one is behind the golf ball. So we have a couple things going in favor for Jon Rahm to swing further up, and number one is where that shoulder tilt is now. So let's draw this in red on the right side. We see over here there's that shoulder tilt, so his hand path will escape parallel to that shoulder tilt, unless you got arms like Gumby, where Jon Rahm's will escape much higher. So that's one of the very key reasons why he needs to de-loft the club face. So there's no point to de-loft the club face unless you can tilt like Jon Rahm to counteract that. The whole reason he's de-lofting the club face is because he's increasing his tilt, so he needs to de-loft the club face to keep it relative, or else that ball will balloon up in the sky. So in other words, just be careful when you try and listen to these quick tips, 3 tips, 4 tips, and you're swinging like Jon Rahm. It's just nonsense. Let's go to compare Tony Finau and Jon Rahm and see how they do comparatively. Is that the word? I go making up words again. Hopefully that's a word. Let me know in the comments down below. Okay, so we got Tony Finau on the purple, and we might do Barney purple to match that purple. So there you go there. And Jon Rahm, and we see some similarities already. Is that shoulder tilt and is putting that center of the chest out in front of the golf ball, which is huge. Look how much Tony Finau does, which is very impressive. So we take a look at the top of the swing here. We see that both spine angles are still matching where they started on the left side of the screen. And we take a look at the length of the golf swing. So let's try and get these together so they sync up. So that's about as close as we get to sync up. So we take a look at here. If we draw a little box around the front of their chest. So we're going to draw right there is the front of the chest. And right here is the front of the chest. And we can see that those hands are relatively connected to the front of the chest, which is huge. If those hands were to go further back and disconnect from that chest, they've got now 0.2 to 0.3 seconds to reconnect it and still drive into the golf ball correctly. So there are some good things that are happening for both of these. By keeping your hands out of the golf swing, it puts the body in control of the golf swing. And what is stronger, the hands and arms or the body? The body tilt and turn is definitely stronger, but those for us at home cannot get to this position because we're not flexible, strong enough to maintain that forward lean posture like these two do. That's when we break out of our posture, or we suffer turn and our hands and arms try to make up for it. Now, if we do that and we still trying to bow the wrist and feel like our hands are up over here, man, it is just a recipe for failure and disaster. But the key is, look at those hands stay in front of the chest, all the way from up to top of the swing, almost down to impact. They never really escape that little box, which is huge. So there's very little arm travel on the right side of the screen here. And if we measure those tilts right one frame after impact, we can see that Tony Finau is at a whopping 67 degrees and Jon Rahm is at 58. Now, if we go back to compare where they were at the top of the swing here, we can see that Tony Finau was at, what is that, 37. So he's got 30 degrees of tilt, and we're going to try and get as best as we can there. There's Jon Rahm, and he is at 39. So he's at 20 degrees. So one will tilt more than the other. So you have to look at why are they tilting more than the other. So if you take a look at the path of the hands, the more tilt you have, the more your hands can escape to the right. The more turn you have, the more your hands can escape to the left. So we know that one is tilting more, which is Tony Finau. So as we strike that golf ball, look at the hands now. This is 2 frames after impact. Where are the hands on Jon Rahm? It's crossed back out in front of the chest, where Tony Finau is still escaping out and away, which could be a compensatory motion from not bowing the wrists at the top of the swing. But now let's take a look at the left side of the screen, and we're going to see that same motion as we come down into impact. Now remember, we know that the more we tilt, we're going to angle our escape pattern to be higher or lower, and both of these players have a high escape pattern past impact from the face on view. So we go down into impact, we can see that their shoulder tilts right at impact have both increased. So here is the new shoulder tilt for Tony Finau, and we see those hands are connected to that shoulder tilt, and this is going to be his escape pattern, where here is Jon Rahm and his hands are still connected to that shoulder tilt, and here is going to be his escape pattern. Both hands are swinging well up as they strike the golf ball. So the key is to get you to hit the ball far, you have to learn to swing up. The only way to increase the ability to swing up is to increase your turning and hanging back relationship, which then changes the center of your bottoming out of your swing to be more ahead of the golf ball. Now, in order to do that, you've got to have some good strong hands to hold that wrist angle, and they both are extremely strong in their hands and wrist to hold that as as long as they can. And by eliminating this excess hand motion, that allows them to hold the wrist hinge, because if you have hands that are trying to reconnect, your wrists are not strong enough, they're going to start releasing that club too early, and that would mean that their ball position has to be more in center of their chest. So hopefully that explains a little bit better, and why you probably should not try those 3 or 4 basic tips to swing like Jon Rahm, because it just is not going to happen. So if you do like this information, hit that like, share, subscribe. My goal on this channel is to educate you to stay away from these clickbait things. And yes, I do some clickbait titles, but it's just to get you in here and then teach you the real truth. Go see a golf coach. We make your life a lot easier, and you stay away from the YouTube rabbit hole. If you hit that like, share, subscribe, don't forget this Sunday, 6 o'clock, we go live. I diagnose your golf swings for your cause and effect. Send me a video to info@liongolfacademy.com. And that's lion, like the animal, not lying, like the people before we watched the video on Fairways and Greens.